Good morning all. Today we have with us a distinguished industry professional, a successful entrepreneur, Sri Sumant, partner and Chief Analyst of 5 Years Research at Innovates and ex-IDC Analyst. We are happy to announce that he was the proud alumni of JNNCE. Sri Sumant is a senior industry professional, market analyst, consultant and entrepreneur with 25 years of global work experience in business management, research, consulting, project execution and operations in reputed firms. Sumant worked across the globe in markets like North America, Africa, Europe, Asia Pacific including India, where he drove many large, innovative and unique projects in management and technology areas ranging from infrastructure to high-tech sectors. Sumant consulted many global reputed fortune companies like Johnson & Johnson, Merck & Company, Cathay Pacific Airways, government departments in US and India, managed a global team of professionals spread across the world. Sumant consults CEOs, CMOs, CIOs on business performance improvement, market disruptions, market predictions, go-to-market, business model innovation and digital transformations and tech innovation. Sumant is also part of a print media publication, Key Times, Health and Environment Times, where he conducts advocacy for sustainable and green planet. We are very proud to have you on this occasion. On behalf of National Education Society and JNNCE, we welcome you, sir.
Thank you.
Now it's over to you, sir.
Thank you so much. Thank you for wonderful introduction, and it's my pleasure to be here, in front of you. So how the jokes, guys? How the jokes? I'm really enjoys the region because I'm returning to campus after 25 years. You can see here I am looking at, and this is the background, our college main building. I'm privileged that the management of NES and JNNC principal has given me this opportunity to come back, and I'm full with the joy. My guru Prakash Vadiyar sir is here, and my other gurus Baliga sir and Mr. Chandrasekhar. I also met him. I am very pleased to meet you all, my old colleagues, and I really appreciate the bridge connect built by Kiran, with myself an alumni association with the college. So even in this condition you are attending our presentation, I am really glad to you. And I feel a lot of positive energy and a lot of change in this campus where we left 25 years back in 1993. I want to kick start my presentation. This pictures remains popping up to many of you in the social media. So I thought why not to highlight this picture again in my presentation. So we are talking, if you see the slot, the topic assigned to me is the tier 2 and tier city. So basically we are going to talk about the locational aspects of the startups, Tech.Startups. But where is the location here? All these big names starting in garage, right? And then So do you have a garage? That's the basic thing. Question we are asking for the startup. You don't need a big building, you don't need a big establishment. Just start from your garage room wherever you have some space. Then you have a Jeel like this. The Amazon founder Jeff is working on own. The Infosys founder is working on own. So do you have a Jeel? So these two things, and we are talking about the city here. Let's see how we move forward, right? So first thing is, if you have a Jeel, you can make from anywhere and to any extent, even if you can start from village, you can make it, right? That's what I'm saying. Next slide. Oh my God, this is not visible so much, but I will explain what is. This is a research conducted where it was mentioned that top 20 regions for startup failures. So location, if you see, location comes here somewhere, very bottom. 9% startups, those who failed, they were researched, and 9% said that they failed due to locational disadvantage. Most of them failed here, around 46% or 50%, you can say roughly. They say that the reason for failure is not launching any product and services as per the market need. You know, their products and services are not accepted and appreciated in the market. That's the biggest reason for the failure. And apart from that, there are other couple of regions. But what I mean to say, location is not a failure region in most of the time. The failure regions are different, you know. Now, when we are discussing the location, let me quickly walk you through how about the Fortune 500s, how they are spread locationally. If you this data, so around 20% Fortune 500 headquarters are in the big cities, and then around 10% big Fortune 500 headquarters in the mid-tier cities. Globally, I'm talking about. This is the global data of Fortune 500, and in the small cities, you find the highest numbers of Fortune 500 headquarters are located. So, since we are talking about the role of cities, that's why I thought to bring to your notice that if you scan the Fortune 500, which are most celebrated companies, you know, so they are not escaping from a small city. They are also having the headquarters in a small cities. Globally, I'm talking, and some of the names are here who are into tier 2, tier 3 city: Walmart, Kellogg, CVS, Hershey, Lowe's. I think these are all US brands. So you have a case if you are in a tier 2, tier 3 city, you can look around these big companies, how they have grown so big from the smaller locations. Just one slide previous. No. Just we skipped one slide. Yeah, this is not working. So what is the future 500 firms headquarter predictions? So it's not like that the previous slide which we have shown is the end of the story. In the future, more and more Fortune 500s are going to come from a smaller city. This is the trend. If you see emerging regions, these are the emerging regions. These emerging regions are China, Southeast Asia, Latin America, South Asia. They are going to house most of the Fortune 500 headquarters in next few years, you know. So this is going up from 85 to 30 companies in the Fortune Global 500 to come from these emerging cities, you know. So more than 50%. Earlier we saw it's around 30%, 35%. Now in few years it will be more than 50%. So that means there is a strong case globally about the positive ecosystem getting at the tier 2 and tier 3 cities. Next slide. That's what I've shown, I have explained in the previous slide also, that this is the prediction. Next slide. I'm sorry for this poor quality here. So this has been taken from one of the research where they have ranked globally top 50 best cities for startups. So if you see, Berlin tops that rank. This is the best cities. This is not the largest startup city, the best city from the ecosystem. Berlin tops the rank, Tel Aviv, Israel tops, then Helsinki, Stockholm, Bengaluru comes at 5, and then London, Boston, Denmark, Amsterdam, San Francisco, Melbourne, Singapore, Austin, Toronto, Vancouver, Munich, Warsaw. Similarly, Zurich, Beijing, Tokyo, New York. So these are some of the best cities for the startups. Next slide. Now, if we are talking about the startups and if you are not touching the Silicon Valley story, then it's not like showing the universe and just focusing on a small area. So I thought many of you must be visited Silicon Valley area or interacting with your friends or near and dear in that area. But still, I'll quickly walk you through the story behind the Silicon Valley. So it's the largest tech startup ecosystem. So it has been rated at highest innovation city and generated large number of patents in 2017. Around 20,000 patents got filed in Silicon Valley area. And over 1/4 of the world unicorns startup originated from Silicon Valley, California, and it's the largest startup ecosystem globally. The value is around $300 billion US, and which is the house of 47% of all startups in the US. And last year alone, startups collected $22 billion in venture capital funding, with 44 1,000 million deals, and it saw 650 plus M&A transaction deals in year 2018. Next slide. So I run a QID analysis. So QID is a package which nowadays, these works used to be done by analysts like us. Now this is all automated in a software package. So we are also getting disrupted. But we accepting that, and we are using these tools, So earlier, the consulting firm like used to charge, lakhs and lakhs rupees for generating these kind of, insights. But now by tools, it is generating in minutes and seconds. So if we run a query, what kind of company, startup company founded in Silicon Valley area? So if you see, this display the various clusters of, startup themes. So startup themes are fintech, life sciences, IoT as smart cities, pure AI and NLP firms, cyber security firms, ad tech firms, and entertainment and gaming firms. That also 7.2% of the Silicon Valley population, the startup population in gaming and entertainment. Fintech is the largest, 17%. So what is the trend? Company founded in last 1 decade with minimum 250K of investments, clusters around 7 key technology innovation clusters. So these are, I mentioned fintech, ad tech, which happens the marketing, automation, CRM, and gaming and entertainment. Then you have the cyber security, then pure AI and natural language processing, then IoT and smart cities, then medical tech and life sciences. So these are like 7 streams on which the most of the startups gets clustered if you map in the QID package. Next slide. So quick numbers. So this is the count of investment, and this is the investment amount. The Silicon Valley, if you say, investment in last 1 decade. So this fintech grabbed 34% of investment, then followed by medical tech, and then AI and NLP picking up here. And if you see, in the count of investment, this gives the count of investments. And if you see 122 total is around, I told about around 300 billion US dollars invested, right? So this is the total sum of that. Next slide. How the hot technology which are pursuing in Silicon Valley. So if you see the last 1 decade trend, 28 to 2010 mostly focus on mobile payment loyalty programs, then in the startups in 21 to 2013 it focus on medtech, health tech and CRM, and in 2014 to 2016 it mostly focused about IoT and telecommunication and autonomous vehicle. And currently the whole focus of the Silicon Valley startup ecosystem is towards blockchain, AI, natural language processing, conversational assistants, boards. There's so many things, the predictive analytics. So these are the spread of number of companies, in the various tech areas. Now, how it has reached to such a mega ecosystem, that is very important, because if we are targeting here to reach to a scale of the tech startups or digital startups, and we should know how they have reached here. So, and I know many of you must be associated with Silicon Valley, and it all started with Stanford University. So Stanford University is driver behind the, the Silicon Valley. So that's, I see great potential in Shimoga and around the area, because JNNCE as an educational institute is now moving forward and taking it forward. So that's what innovation need to be derived from university and colleges. That's what we have seen here in case of Silicon Valley. And the dean of, the dean of School of Engineering, he himself was instrumental in setting up research park at Stanford University, which housed many startup company initially. HP, the dean of Stanford University, he personally called his 2 electrical students who were looking for job after graduating from Stanford. They went to East Coast because in 50s and 40s most of the jobs were in New York area and Boston area. So he personally called his 2 students, electrical engineering students, they jointly formed Hewlett Packard firm. They came and they founded their first company, HP, in the Stanford University campus under the guidance of their professor. So that's all the story started, and now today it's ranked as San Jose. San Jose is now is a Silicon Valley, but main thing is the satellite and planet system of San Francisco as San Jose. That triggered the entire ecosystem to get developed, and the San Jose is ranking number 10. So if you see US tier 1 cities, Chicago, New York, San Francisco, Philadelphia, Boston, and Washington DC, these are tier 1. San Jose is still not tier 1, it is tier 2 city. So what I'm trying to say is that there is nothing like tier 2 or tier 3 barrier. You know, if a region has to emerge, it will emerge, whether it is tier 2 or it is tier 1. So Chicago is not anywhere in rank with San Jose, right? So though they are the metro cities. You know, this is how I'm trying to highlight. So there is a video clip which you can see, if you can start the video clip.
Silicon Valley is an almost $3 trillion neighborhood, thanks to companies like Apple, Google, and Tesla. But it wasn't always this way. In the late 1800s, San Francisco's port helped make it a hub of the early telegraph and radio industries. In 1909, San Jose became the home of one of the country's first radio stations. In 1933, the Navy purchased Moffett Field to dock and maintain the USS Macon. This made Moffett Field a major hub for the early days of the aerospace industry. Many scientists and researchers all found work in the area. In 1939, the Ames Research Center was founded in the area, and it became home to the world's largest wind tunnel in 1949. Also in 1939, William Hewlett and David Packard founded Hewlett-Packard in Palo Alto, which originally made oscillators. Then, during World War II, Hewlett-Packard made radar and artillery technology. At this point, computers were about the size of a room. In the 1940s, William Shockley co-invented the transistor while at Bell Labs. The transistor is now known as the computer processor. In 1956, Shockley left Bell and founded his own company, Shockley Semiconductor Labs. It was the first company to make transistors out of silicon and not germanium. The company was founded in Mountain View, California, so Shockley could be closer to his sick mother. Shockley's company employed many recent graduates from Stanford. In 1957, 8 Shockley employees grew tired of his demeanor and left the company. Shockley called this group the Traitorous 8. They partnered with Sherman Fairchild to create Fairchild Semiconductor. In the early 1960s, Fairchild helped make computer components for the Apollo program. Later in the decade, many of the Traitorous 8 left Fairchild, including Gordon Moore and Robert Noyce, who in 1968 founded their own company in Santa Clara called Intel. Soon after, other ex-Fairchild employees and Traitorous 8 members helped found AMD and venture fund Kleiner Perkins. In 1969, the Stanford Research Institute became one of the 4 nodes of ARPANET, a government research project that would go on to become the Internet. In 1970, Xerox opened up PARC Lab in Palo Alto. PARC invented early computing tech, including Ethernet computing and the graphical user interface. In 1971, journalist Don Hoefler titled a 3-part report on the semiconductor industry, Silicon Valley, USA. The name stuck. In the 1970s, companies like Atari, Apple, and Oracle were all founded in the area. In the 1980s, Silicon Valley became the widely accepted center of the computer industry. eBay, Yahoo, PayPal, and Google are just some of the companies founded in the area in the 1990s. with Facebook, Twitter, Uber, and Tesla joining them the following decade. The growth of the tech industry in the area continues to this day.
Valley will come to our own valley, right? Indian Valley, right? So I'll walk you through how the startup did in last couple of years in India. So this is the NASSCOM data. So if you see the last 5 years, 2013 to 18, we have seen the growth of 15% in the startups. Tech startup I'm talking about, digital startups. So it is right now it's 7,700 in last 5 years. The tech startups are launched in India, and 2018 itself 1,200 plus tech startups were added into Indian economy. We produce around 18 unicorns, tech unicorns in a single year. I think by the time I'm reading, this has gone to 11 unicorns in India. So unicorns is like those the valuation have reached $1 billion or above. So we boast in 1 year, we boast of producing more than 10 unicorn. Total funding received by tech startups in 2018, it's recorded till JNNCE here in the NASSCOM report. It saw 100% year-in-year growth, and it's touching $4.3 billion. And increased number of advanced tech startups. So if you see advanced tech, means the deep learning, AI, machine learning, the artificial intelligence, cognitive based startups, this now counts 50% of the overall base. 40,000 jobs got created, that is new jobs. And if you say tech startups incepted outside the main metros, that is 35% in this NASSCOM data, but in last month PM address he mentioned about now 45% around, that 45% startups, Indian startups are in 2018 are coming from the tier 2 and tier 3 city. So it's growing up, So the incubators have also grown up to 10 plus in year 2018, and it's on the 11% year-on-year growth. So that's a nutshell, a dashboard of how a startup ecosystem is doing in India, tech startups I mean to say here. Next slide please. If you see where we are globally, so United States, of course, US is leading the startup ecosystem. UK is the second number, India is the third number. It is taking a kind of close competition with Israel and China is moving in a big way. So we need to move a big way to keep at least our third position, and then from third position to second position, that is we have to compete with the UK. Next. So what are the growth drivers? So we have seen that 15% growth have been seen in last 1 year in the startup, last 5 years in the startup ecosystem in India. So what are the growth drivers? So growth drivers is higher GDP of India. So right now it is hovering around 1.2%, and so internet access, that has gone up. Mobile access has gone up. Funding is one reason for the drivers, higher growth. Now advanced technology based startups, that's are growing. Value added startups, that's are growing. And growth stage funding, that is Series A, Series B, Series C fundings, that's improving. Improving of the infrastructure, support infrastructure. These are some of the drivers why the startups are growing in India. Next slide please. So what are the growth sectors? Again you see here the various growth sectors are there: fintech, entertainment, the marketing tech, and you have transport and logistic, you have consumer software, and you have the HR, and you have other sectors, like retail and other sectors. So enterprise software is the biggest growth. Fintech is, incidentally, Silicon Valley fintech is the biggest in Indian startups. Fintech is the second growth, and enterprise software, B2B softwares are the highest. Marketplace, the e-commerce space comes here, healthcare space come here, edutech and others are coming here. So next slide. So what are the technology in which the large investments and large startups are coming? So 1200 plus advanced tech startups, which are the data analytics here 27%. IoT is the next large base. AI, VR, AI is still emerging 12%. AR, VR is AR, VR and AI here in this thing. Blockchain is 5% and others, I think this color is not visible in the presentation. Anyway, so mostly it is dominated by data analytics, IoT and AI, AR, VR. Blockchain is just emerging. So if you see the CAGR of last 5 years, data analytics grown by 20%, Internet of Things grown by 17%, artificial intelligence startups grown by 58%, AR, VR grown by 28%, blockchain is, of course, is starting, that's what you are seeing 100% growth here. Next slide. Highest growth in the tech unicorns, I said that by today I am speaking, the unicorns have touched around 11 numbers in Indian startup ecosystem. So some of the unicorns we saw in 2018, Oyo Rooms, Udaan, Swiggy, Zomato, Policy Bazaar, and some are which already reached the unicorn stage or in the process of reaching the unicorn. 1 billion valuation is Buildes, Proacto, Big Basket. So Udaan is how they jumped, their growth, in last after foundation, right? So now they are sitting with the 225 million Series C funding. Next slide. Now, if we compare our unicorns growth, the Indian startup unicorns growth with the global one, we see the US, they have the highest house of unicorns startups, that is 126 number of unicorns. China, we have 77 unicorns. In India, maybe around 20 plus. Okay, UK 15, Germany 6, Israel 4. In 2018, and the average time, how many years it takes for unicorn to make in India, it's 4 to 6 years, 5 to 7 years. China 4 to 6 years, in US it's 6 to 8 years. So this is the valuation, average valuation I am talking about. So what is the message here? This is the one newspaper clipping. Indians have founded more unicorns startup in the US than in India. So if you count the unicorns founded by India, it's going to be much Indians even abroad, or it's going to be much higher than any Indian country. So that's why we say that many Indians go in Silicon Valley and they found their startups. So next slide. So biggest startup company which got funding last year, it's Vijay Shankar Sharma on Paytm. It funded by Warren Buffett. So I met him last year and discussed his his fund strategy. Warren Buffett, pumped 25 billion US dollars by taking a stake in Paytm. So I remain reading about the Vijay Shankar Sharma story in 1999 after graduating from Delhi College of Engineering. He worked in a job for only 1 year. Then in 2000 he founded one software company, online software company. And because he left the job, he was not even on the salary, so he used to ride the auto, in Delhi, right? So that is the story, and now he is the biggest startup honko in India, right? So from there, how he has grown in last 15 years. So he is the biggest source of motivators for the startups, and the Vijay Shankar Sharma is very humble founder. I met him, he spoke me very. I have a video of his message also. So next, so if you see the funding trend, total funding 4.2 billion, it may be roughly 5 billion in entire 2018. So it is up 108%, and number of deals also gone up. Number of deals though gone down 451. Average funding per deal 9.5 million. Seed stage funding 151 million. I mean, it is the last year data. Early stage has gone up. Late stage has gone up. That is one good significance, that many startups are now entering into success story. Like one of my friend is here, Bajes. He was showing his startup performance while we are coming together from Bangalore. I think he is now, company is moving in this bucket, where he has proved his startup story. The Japanese investors are now making big in his firm. So that is about the people are forming the startup. Many startups are coming, but I see the death rate of startups are all over very high. 90% of startups are getting closed. So it is good sign that Indian startups are coming into this bracket where they are receiving Series C funding, their Series D funding, and you are seeing the great growth rate of around 300%. That means more and more startups stories are going to be real. They are going to survive for 5 years, 6 years down the line. So next slide. Indian tech funding trend. This is another data which I have taken from other source. So here, if you see, Indian tech startups raised 11 billion in funding across 743 deals, with more than 637 Indian startups raising funding in 2018. Bangalore is the biggest hub of Indian tech startups, and globally it is ranked on third. So if you see, it has received 4.75 billion in funding in 2018. So if you see, around 50% of the entire tech funding has come to Bangalore startups, right? So next slide. Oh my God, this is not very good visible here. So what are the verticals which are attracting the most of the funding, if you see? So travel, marketplace, fintech, food tech, health tech. So these are the perspectives. So travel has received this 1038 deals. This number of deals are given here. So verticals. So if you see what are in travel, what are the biggest startups we have seen in last years? Oyo Rooms, unicorn. It has gone to the unicorn level. And Holiday Me, Head Out, then Paytm story I talked about, Udaan, Grofers, many of you must be using the Grofers, Fintech, you have Vardhana, you have Neo Growth, the Food Tech, you have Swiggy, EG Diner, and Health Tech, you have Net Meadows, Practos, so let's go to the next slide. Now here I will particularly see, we have presented how tier 2 cities have received the funding. So Delhi NCR, Bangalore, and this is the Bangalore and this is the Delhi NCR. These are the two main receiver of the funding. Then you have followed by Hyderabad, Chennai, and Jaipur has taken a lead. Pune has also taken in lead. So now at least Pune, Jaipur, Chandigarh, Kolkata, they have started emerging in these graphs. Earlier they were not emerging. Mostly the NCR, Delhi and Bangalore were dominating the startup funding. But that's good that now tier 2 city is coming up, but still they have a lot to do. Okay, so you cite Chennai, Hyderabad, Jaipur. Jaipur, of course, tier 2 city. Chennai is metro city, but as far as the startup hub is concerned, they are still, from that criteria, they are still lying at the tier 2 level. They have not moved into tier 1 level. Even Kolkata is now, and Hyderabad is also known as metro city, but from size wise they are metro, but from the startup economy wise they are still stacking up in tier 2 level, tier 2 or tier 3 level. So I think these cities are going to move further and they may join their peer metro city like Bengaluru and Delhi. Next slide. So who are the active investors in Indian tech space? One of the prominent investors is sitting here, but there are many investors here in seed stage. Like if you are starting a startup, so you need a seed capital, so you may approach these few mentioned seed investors which are active in India. So these are Y Combinator, Bloom Ventures, Excelor Ventures, Omidire, Brand Capital. So these are the seed stage funding providers. The earliest stage is like once your POC is through you have got your first client, your product being now accepted in some customers. So then you go for the early stage funding. So early stage funding, who are the investors you can approach? So if your startup is in that stage, you can approach SL Partners. They have done 16 number of deal in India, and Sequoia Capital, they are coming big way, 13 deals, IDG Ventures, then BNEX, then Safe Partners. Late stage, that is the one of the growth story, 300% growth in late stage funding. So here you will see the Sequoia Capital is dominating, the Safe Partner is dominating, Brand Capital is dominating, Lightspeed Ventures and DST Global. So these are some of the highly active venture capitalists in tech startup world of India. Next. What are the typical business models which are getting funded in Indian tech startup system? So global innovation, that is, you have to, the products which are addressed for the global requirement, you are addressing some of the global issue, that attracts most of the funding. The rental economy, so all this, the rental economy is something you are renting out, either the subscription or some kind of tokens. So that is funding in big way. So again, this B2B and B2C, the subscription model is also picking up. Now on demand, on demand, like this doctor appointment application, Procto, this on demand application. So these kind of models are picking up, like appointment booking, food ordering, P2P payment, demand analytics, and these B2C subscription models is like that ordering the groceries, video content, daily essential, online, right? So these are like in rental economy, renting vehicles, some assets or some hotel places, room places. So these all coming into these categories, Next slide. So as from the funding perspective, and I've mentioned that Delhi and Bengaluru are dominating. So as from the tech startup population perspective, 25% of the tech startups are Bengaluru, and in Delhi NCR 21% tech startups are there, Mumbai 14%. Other emerging cities I have mentioned that Kolkata, Chennai, Hyderabad, Indore, Pune, Ahmedabad, Jaipur, Chandigarh, these are emerging. So some of them are metro city, but still they are not par with their peer city like Delhi and Bangalore. So they have to pick up, and some tier 2 city like Jaipur has done definitely very well in attracting the startups. Similarly, Indore is one of the emerging name in tier 2 city as far as the startups are concerned. Similarly, in Kerala, Kochi, you will find it's one of the emerging tech startup hub. It's also coming under tier 2 city. Though it's Kochi, someone ranks it as metro city also, but from the startup perspective, we can treat into tier 2 city. So Kochi has also shown a lot of growth on the startups. Next slide. So what are some of the advantages associated with these emerging and tier 2 tech startup cities? So like Hyderabad, a lot of infrastructure and hub is there for research and innovation. The government has launched the TIA program, I think the Telangana government. Similarly, Chennai is also emerging as one of the SaaS hub for the country. Pune is, my friend Bajesh is here representing the Pune. So that is also large engineering and manufacturing oriented hub is there, that is adding into the growth of startups. So Kolkata is also coming in big way, because government is supporting a lot of initiatives. So some of the startups, successful startups mapped into these cities. So Kerala, I talked about Kochi, that's also emerging, and Jaipur, I talked about. Chandigarh is also talking about, in a lot of auto you will be seeing, at least in North Indian city, I see that Chalo Jugnu se, the Jugnu application is developed by Chandigarh guy, right? So it's like for auto consolidation, auto bookings. So what is the main reason for growth in tier 2 cities? Increasing presence of incubators and tech parks along with affordable office spaces, driving growth of tech startups ecosystem in smaller cities. Next slide. So I mentioned about the incubators and accelerators, and then local investors are also coming up in these tier 2 cities, and talent affordability and availability is also improving, and state government support is also increasing, and the improving infrastructure, road, airport connectivity, these are also improving. These are also driving the growth in tier 2, tier 3 city India. So I mean, you see in NASCOM, this company is flashing. It is founded at Jamshedpur, Jharkhand, that is in Teleware. So it is customer focused enterprise network solution working on AI based SaaS platform. So it is B2B enterprise, founded at launch at Jamshedpur. Saharanpur in IIT Roorkee, this company was incubated, Log9 Materials. So similarly in Kharagpur, IIT Kharagpur incubator, this company was launched Skin Curate. So there are many examples which are coming successfully in incubators set up by local
universities and institutions. Next slide, page. Now let's talk about the growth driver of tech startups at tier 2 and tier 3 cities of Karnataka. So I'd like to highlight one of the major program of Karnataka state governments is known as Startup Karnataka. So Karnataka startup policy is to create 20,000 tech startups by 2020. Incubators, so financially supporting tech education institute to set up their own incubators. So under the Startup Karnataka scheme, many local incubators were established across the various cities of Karnataka, particularly in collaboration with the local technical educational institutions. Virtual incubators are also in a growth area. So for under this program, so create 4x touch points by extending services to virtual incubators through such affiliations. So several startup focused funds that together have a corpus of 47.3 million USD, which is around 300 INR, 300 crore INR being incorporated. Agriculture department started a 1.5 million, that is INR 10 crore fund for companies in the agri-tech. So agri-tech is another emerging area under the Karnataka startup program. Elevate 100 is one more initiative where it has been envisioned to identify and support 100 of the most innovative startups in the state. So Startup Coast is another regional focus startup program having the intention of construction of 2 innovation centers, 100-seater workspace in Mangaluru, and up to 5 incubation hubs in colleges and around the areas of coastal Karnataka. So Mangaluru workspace has been already inaugurated last year, and the work been going on the other incubation hubs. So next slide. Now, what are the drivers coming from the central government schemes? So impetus from for making tier 2 and tier 3 cities as an innovation and entrepreneurship hub. So one of the critical point to be mentioned here, critical initiative government of India need to be mentioned here is Atal Innovation Mission, AIM. So the Atal Innovation Mission, the core objective is to promote innovation and entrepreneurship across the country. 20 to 30 Atal Thinkers laboratories are slated for installation in schools across the state. So Atal incubators having the core objective of promoting entrepreneurship in universities and industries. So providing a grant of up to 10 crores to a successful applicant for setting up greenfield incubators or scaling up existing ones. So 10 crore grant is coming if somebody is establishing a greenfield incubators or even reviving or scaling up the existing ones. So these all impetus are coming from the central government of the India programs like AIM, the Atal Innovation Mission. So next program of government of India, which I want to mention here, is Startup India. So Startup India is to build a strong ecosystem conducive for growth of a startup business. The 19-point Startup India action plans having the agenda for several incubation centers, easier patent filing, tax exemptions, and with the fund of INR 10,000 crores for setting up the various ecosystem for startups in across the India. Now, next impetus is coming from another government of India program, which is known as Digital India. So the Digital India is going to create 1 trillion of the digital economy by 2025. So there is the big opportunity coming across every sphere of the value chain in terms of enabling the digitization or each and every action items and each and every transactions. So another impetus is coming from overall economic growth or GDP growth of India, and it is expected that by 2032, the India is going to emerge as 10 trillion economy, which is one of the fastest growing economy around the world. So these are some of the key drivers which are going to drive the growth of tech startups in tier 2 and tier 3 cities. Next slide. Another point I want to mention here is how the corporates and the various foundations are funding or driving the startup programs. So I'd like to mention few selects corporate startup programs, starting with the NASSCOM program of NASSCOM 10K Startups. So NASSCOM 10K Startup Initiative is to incubate, fund, and support 10,000 technology startups in India by 2023. And we can see that in Bangalore already the incubation centers and accelerators been working, and the NASSCOM 10K building. So is this the fruits of the this program is already under demonstration, and one can go and see over there how the startups are incubated in under NASSCOM 10K program. Now, similarly, another corporate program which I like to mention here is the Capgemini a startup program, which gives early stage startups the opportunity to jump start their business with its new innovators, reach 50 contests. So similarly, Intel having the a very good accelerator program for the startups, and these are the 1-year accelerated incubation program between DHT, Intel, and Sign to promote startups. Intel has seed funding mechanism also in place. So next program of one of the major corporate I want to discuss here is IBM Global Entrepreneurship Program, which equips entrepreneurs with go-to-market support, business mentorship service and discounts, technical guidance, and networking opportunity. One of the major foundation which I want to mention here, which is particularly fueling the startup ecosystem in tier 2 and tier 3 city, and particularly in Karnataka state, is of the Deshpande Foundation. So Deshpande Foundation Sandbox Startups provides incubation support for first-time entrepreneurs, members aspiring entrepreneurs with a vision to create business model relevant to tier 2 cities in India, and of course the target is all to expand the tier 3 cities. Next slide. When we are talking about Deshpande Foundation, I like to mention about the Hubli Sandbox, which was recently inaugurated, in Hubli, Karnataka. And if you can see, these characteristics is one of the India's largest startup incubation center built by Sandbox Startup. And then it has a built-up area of 100,000 square feet and can accommodate 100 companies at a time. The facilities are electronic system design and manufacturing, that is ESDM, surface mount technology, SMT line, and 3D printing line. So, since last 1 year, you can see this incubation center is bringing a lot of the startup or tech hunkos or entrepreneurs under this umbrella, and many mentors are also coming and getting attached to this incubation center. Here I'd like to show you a video of this Hubli Sandbox, and so the next video, please. So after this video, let's come to the next slide. The type of venture incubated at Hubli Sandbox. So if you see, there is a snapshot of the ventures which are being incubated at the Hubli Sandbox, which we just discussed, and this also demonstrate what kind of startups are getting attracted in tier 2 and tier 3 cities. Most of the startups which are location agnostic can be replicated even in tier 2 and tier 3 cities. But if I go scanning the profile of some of the typical or key startups which got incubated at Hubli Sandbox, then you can see the companies like startup companies like Nanopix, Equus, Safi, the Freshbox scene, then Novodyme, then Wide Mobility. These are some of the representation of what kind of business model and what kind of startups ecosystems are getting created. So next slide, please. Here I want to bring to your attention that for a tier 2 and tier 3 city startups, two kind of strategic option exist. First strategic option is follow a market, that is emerge as me too player, follow your big town competitors, invest into proven business models, identify products and offerings and services of existing developed market which are location agnostic, use standards emerging digital technology platform for rapid products and solution development and delivery, start serving your customers on cost arbitrage, because for a small town players, low cost is big competitive advantage. So I think that could be one of the starting point. Start building up the scale and volume. So essentially, under option 1, you are just copying what your tier 1 peers were doing or are doing in market, with essentially one advantage, one strategic advantage, that is advantage over the cost of the product delivery or services delivery. So you are building your differentiation based on cost only compared to what your tier 1 city peer are doing. But if you see the option 2, that is create a market, this strategic the framework is going to differentiate you from your tier 1 peers, tier 1 city peer, not only on cost but many other parameters and factors. So it essentially focus on the disruption aspects. So disruption aspects means by thoroughly identifying new local and global and address problems and people and business needs. Here the core theme is not to compete for existing markets which were created by someone else, but the theme is to create a new market through your own disruptive innovation solution and business models which can be offered from tier 2 and tier 3 cities. And then use these disruptions and innovative technology for your offerings, that is build your offerings on only innovation and disruption. And identify new sets of customers who are eager for adopting new innovations and transformation. So basically essentially the strategic options number 2 is based on disrupting the existing business model, existing services, value delivery models, what you have already seen in market, particularly dominated by tier 1 cities, tech startups or tech players. Coming to the next slide, if I have to follow either of these options, or maybe best of option 1 and option 2, then what kind of roadmap we can imagine we can have for Karnataka's tech tier 2, tier 3 cities tech startups development. So what I'm suggesting here in this slide, that a clustered approach by developing Bengaluru as big planet with tier 2 and tier 3 cities, that is nearby tier 2 and nearby tier 3 cities as satellite city. So the planet, the big planet, and a small satellite based clusters approach approach is the best suggested approach for developing the clusters of various cities of Karnataka as tech startup hub. So this is going to scale up even the model we have seen, a successful model we have seen in Silicon Valley area, the region, because we believe that the Indian startups ecosystems are not only going to solve the global problem, but also need to address and having the opportunity to address many local problems which are so far unaddressed. So they have the two market growth potentials of market. First is the global market which they can address, and second is the local matters which they can address. So with clustered approach, Greater Bangalore we are calling about, and its a tier 2 and tier 3 satellite cities can be established as 200 billion plus US dollar digital startup economy hub in par with Silicon Valley economy in next 2 to 3 years. So Silicon Valley economy at present, the startup economy is at present is sitting at 300 billion. So if we start developing the Greater Bangalore and the nearby tier 2 and nearby tier 3 cities in planet and satellite mode. So we are soon going to start competing with the scale of the Silicon Valley startup economy, and we are also going to capture or even to create an impact of 200 billion digital startup economy clustered in Karnataka in next 2 to 3 years. That is the message here. So when I am coming towards the end of my presentation, I really want to leave you with few strategic questions here. These strategic questions are like, can Shimoga target developing at least 10 to 15 billion USD digital startup economy by 2022? So when we are talking about 200 billion digital startup economy in the entire the Greater Bangalore area, nearby tier 2 and tier 3 city area, then why we can't have a target of 10 to 15 billion local digital startup economy at Shimoga itself? Then next strategic question we have here is, can Shimoga dream of creating 100x tech startups by 2022? And next big dream in terms of the strategic option I can say here, can Shimoga dream of creating at least 2 unicorn by 2022? So these are the big strategic options and questions I'm raising here, which can establish this entire area as a digital next digital startup economy hub. And with these thoughts, I come towards the end of presentation, and I leave this forum for the further deliberation. And if you have any question and answers on my presentation or any of the aspects of startup area, you can shoot to me right now, or you can reach to me on my email ID, sumant@starkcsi.com or sumant_parimal@innograce.com. With this, I end my presentation here, and really thank you all for listening to my presentation with a lot of patience, and I hope my presentations must have given you good insights and perspective for how the tier 2 and tier 3 cities are going to emerge, or what are the potential which are sitting on tier for tier 2 and tier 3 cities. And with this, I like to thank you all for participating, and those who have invited me to this event. Thank you. Thanks very much.